Okay, so I don't know why this is, but I have probably seen this movie, I can't even count how many times, but it's been about almost 20 years that I've watched this movie, and every single time I've come up blank about why I'm okay with watching it. It's not the best movie, but I had to figure it out. But it is Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Now, this has been, I haven't had this movie since like 2002 or something like that, or 2001. No, Christmas 2000, that's about how long I've had it. I watched the prequels so many times, and like other people are like, oh, they're the worst movies ever, but I don't know, I think there's something deeper in there, and I really want to just, I've watched these movies so many times that I am just ready to talk about them, and I have no one to talk about it with, because everyone who I talk about it with is like,
those don't exist in the Star Wars universe.
Well, they do, because they are made, and they're canon, so, yeah. So I want to like divide it up, but right now in this video I want to talk about hero's journey as far as who is the hero in the prequels. And I'm going to split them up, like this one we're going to talk about solely on the Phantom Menace, and then we're going to go on with the other two prequels and decide who is the real hero, like whose journey we're going on. So yeah, I find it really interesting, so I'm going to just go ahead and dive right in. But the real hero in the story, I don't think it's Anakin, because for one main, well, we meet him in the second act, and everyone knows, I mean not everyone knows, but everyone is familiar with meeting the hero in the first act, like where we follow his story or her story, and we don't follow Anakin's story in this one. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The story that we follow is Obi-Wan's. Like, we literally open up on him and Qui-Gon in the blockade ship and going through his journey, and like, it's all about him. It's literally how he's feeling. Like, he goes this journey of wanting to become a Jedi Knight, and he's a Padawan right now, and so he's trying to prove himself. So basically it's his journey of trying to prove himself, but sometimes his ambition can be a little bit too much, and we see that because, spoiler alert, at the end Qui-Gon dies, and hasn't been prepared to fight a Sith. I mean, nobody has, because they haven't seen him in 1,000 years. So it's a story. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, hold on. Joseph Campbell, who is, I don't know if he's still alive, but he was a professor, and he wrote this book called A Hero of a Thousand Faces, which goes through basically the hero's journey and like what it spawns from. Here's the hero's journey. I have specifically marked this because I am an English major, and this is like literally what we have to go through all the time, with just analyzing each hero and story. So Obi-Wan literally goes through all of this, and Anakin kind of does, but not as much as Obi-Wan. Like, he starts from his regular journey of being a Jedi Padawan. His mentor is Qui-Gon. His call to adventure, which is trying to protect the Naboo Queen, trying to see her safely to Coruscant, and that's when, like, I mean, he's from Coruscant, but I feel like going, like, on his journey to Coruscant and being through all that invasion is his crossing the threshold into this other, I mean, they call it the other world. Like, you have your home world, you have your other world, that's where you go to. And in the circle, if you do the, if you're going by that. And then he tests his allies and enemies, which is his allies is Anakin, his enemies, I mean, he doesn't test them, but he sees him as Darth Maul when they're on Tatooine. And he kind of, you know, that's kind of him being like, okay, friends, enemies, this might be a Sith, all that. And then he goes, reaches the Queen safely, and has another call to adventure to basically get rid of the Trade Federation. I knew it was something really simple, but the Trade Federation, and he goes back, and then he goes to his dragon battle, which they always say, I mean, like, they kind of name that. It's kind of like Beowulf fighting, it's not coming to me, Grendel. I mean, it's like Beowulf fighting Grendel whenever, you know, you're going to the monster, you're fighting the monster. So he's fighting Darth Maul, and that's his monster, but then usually the mentor dies, Qui-Gon dies. This is his resurrection in a way, and he becomes something new, and that's when he comes back with the elixir, which you could argue is Anakin, to the Jedi Temple, and using that information, or, you know, your elixir to become someone new, which he does. He becomes a Jedi Knight. I just think, like, every single one of these, it makes sense that he's the hero in the story and why Anakin's not. But it's interesting because he's not the hero in the original trilogy, and this is like a spoiler alert if you haven't watched the original, which I have actually met someone who's never watched Star Wars, and it was very scary because it's like part of pop culture, and you're in a film class and you're like, okay, if you're doing a film concentration, why haven't you watched Star Wars? But that's a whole nother, you know, can of worms. But Obi-Wan's not the hero in the original trilogy. Luke is. So why would they have Obi-Wan the hero, if you will, through this look at being a hero, and not have Anakin, who could easily transition to him being his son, kind of like passing the torch, which he doesn't, it's too soon to pass the torch. But why it's centered around him, and there's only two theories why I have this, and one of them is like tinfoil hat weird theory, but the other one is kind of makes sense. One would be, this is Obi-Wan's story, the prequel trilogy, and he is telling this to Luke or Leia if they ever do talk through the Force, which could be possible, you never know. And he's kind of like the mentor. It's kind of like he is the not the storyteller, he is the, I forget what it's called, but he is like the he's giving information down to Luke, who needs to hear it, and that's kind of part of the hero's journey as well. But the other theory is kind of extreme. Is that Luke and Leia aren't Anakin's kids, but Obi-Wan's, and it's just his story, which is very far-fetched, and it's like completely, there's only a few people who believe that, but it would be a cool theory to think about. That's not really a Skywalker, it's a Kenobi, because there is a theory that Kenobi was the chosen one. Like when he was younger, they all thought, because he was so powerful. He went to the Jedi Temple at 6 months old, and that's really, really early for someone to be recruited. The latest, I think, is 3 or 4 to be recruited, but he was like 6 months old because he was showing signs then. And so I think a lot of people thought he was the chosen one. People also thought that Mace Windu was the chosen one. So there is possibility that Obi-Wan is the hero in this case, because he does go through a bunch of the hero's journey. I don't know about all of it, but pretty much what I picked out, like the return, the resurrection, you know, rescue, he rescues the princess, or the queen. That's the original trilogy. There's a struggle, there's a threshold struggle with going past the blockade, and then their ship being damaged. He doesn't really go, I mean, arguably his brother battle could be the third one, which I will get into in that video, but he definitely goes through a dragon battle, which is with Darth Maul. Dismemberment, I think, would be his lightsaber, because usually they do, I mean, that's why there is a lot of dismemberment in Star Wars, but his lightsaber could arguably be, because it is part of his life, and he does say that in Attack of the Clones. to Anakin whenever he loses his lightsaber. He's like, this is your life, you know, take care of it. Their night sea journey could be equated to Tatooine, which is where they learn a lot of information. But he definitely goes through, you know, getting the elixir, flight, goes through the tests, his call to adventure, all that. So it does absolutely make sense about why he would be the hero. I wish I could talk to George Lucas right now and see why he did that change, because I know he is a very smart director and he does things for a reason. So I'm wondering why, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. So yeah, that's my theory. We're gonna go, I'm also gonna do one on Attack of the Clones and see if that pans out as well. And might not. He might be the hero in that one, but definitely in Phantom Menace, yes, he is the hero in this one, and he could be the hero overall in the prequel trilogy. It looks like that. But yeah, that's it for the video for today. Watch out for new videos coming soon. More videos on Phantom Menace will be up. I have a few other subjects that I do want to talk about that are important to the prequel trilogy that I think are a necessity to be answered, because why were they brought up in the first place, kind of thing. So yeah, just watch out for that. You can follow me on Twitter, which will be in the link box down below. Also follow me on Patreon, where I am a writer and I post poems and stories and all that stuff. You can check it out, help me out. Struggling artist. But yeah, just like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more. I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.